First though, it's round 3 of the FIA GT Championship. In Germany, Simon Taylor reports.
Here at Hockenheim, on Mercedes' doorstep, it's reigning champion Bernd Schneider, who will start from pole position in a new lightweight V8 version of the Mercedes CLK. In round 2 at Silverstone, the American Paynos led the Mercedes and Porsches before David Brabham was spun into touch by Uwe Altson's Porsche. So disappointment for Brabham, disappointment for Paynos, and there was no joy for Porsche either that day, because at the end Mercedes had yet another victory to celebrate. Well, here at Hockenheim, Mercedes have taken the first 4 places on the grid, and Klaus Ludwig's new V8 car joins Schneider on the front row. So Porsche, despite their Le Mans victory, haven't beaten Mercedes yet in this year's FIA Championship rounds. But the potential of the sleek GT1 Porsche has been proved at Le Mans. So today, Yannick Dalmas and Alan McNish want to tackle Mercedes on their home ground. McNish, on the right, of course, drove that Le Mans winning car, but here the Porsches are 5th and 6th, 8th and 9th on the grid, split by the mighty Paynos, 7th on the grid. And in GT2, it's Viper, Marcos, Viper at the top of the qualifying list. They come round the final corner at Hockenheim to complete their rolling start lap. 2 silver Mercedes at the front, then the 2 blue Person Mercedes, then the 2 white Porsches. The lights go green, and the 2 silver Mercedes move as one, but it's Schneider on the inside with the yellow mirrors. Schneider takes the lead, locks up a wheel going into that first right-hander, but it's Schneider from Ludwig. Then it's Gunon and Mailander in the 2 blue Mercedes, but one of the Porsches is right up there, and then the Paynos with his headlights on already as they fan out to go down to that first chicane, the Jim Clark chicane, which is approaching them now as they come up to about 190 miles an hour, and Mercedes, and then a Porsche into that first chicane, and it's Schneider, then it's Ludwig, Gunon, Mailander, Jörg Müller under pressure from the Paynos, it's Eric Bernard in the Paynos, and we're riding now with Michael Bartels in the Zack-Speed Porsche. Ahead of him, the black McLaren, that's Jeff Lees, who's well up to about 215 miles an hour round the Ostkurve. They're coming up to the second chicane, the Ostkurve chicane on the brakes now. The brake lights go on, tight into that right and then left, and then right again, those unforgiving curves before they're hard on the power to go down the long drag, which will take them to the third chicane, the Ayrton Senna chicane. Yellow mirrors lead red mirrors, that's Schneider leading Ludwig, then the 2 blue Mercedes, but there's a battle behind them. The Paynos has moved up a place. Yes, the Paynos goes ahead of the faster of the Porsches. Müller is passed by Eric Bernard, trying very hard in the Paynos. The GT2 cars all jockeying for position behind them, but 4 Mercedes in the lead, and the front-engined American V8 powered Paynos is in 5th place, ahead of 2 Porsches, a McLaren and the 2 green Zack-Speed Porsches. This is only the first lap. There's a long way to go, but the race is well and truly on as they come back into the chicane section, round that tight left-hander, which is the Sachs-Curve, then the double right-hander, the Sudkurve. Look at Müller closing right up under braking on the Paynos. The Paynos still, though, holding on to that 5th place ahead of the 2 Porsches behind the 4 Mercedes as they cross the start-finish line and begin their second lap. Still, Schneider leading Ludwig, leading Gunon, leading Mailander, then Eric Bernard in the Paynos, and then it's Jörg Müller and Yannick Dalmas in the 2 white Porsches as they go back out of the stadium section down that long, slightly right curving straight, which will take them back to the first chicane, back into the Hockenheim forests. Oh, and a spin here. Only the second lap, but that's Franz Conrad, who's got it completely wrong under braking for turn 1. The gravel has done its job and slowed him down, and already the leaders are back with us in the stadium. Still the 4 Mercedes. That number 7 Porsche, that's Yannick Dalmas in the car that he will share with Alan McNish. We ride once more with Michael Bartels, who's getting very close under braking to the twitching black McLaren ahead of him, driven by Jeff Lees. Over the start-finish line once more. Bartel's in one of the green Zaxpeed Porsches that make up the quartet of the new GT1 Porsches here today. They go round the first corner of the lap. That's the Nord Curver, a tight right-hander. And now hard on the power as they go down the long, long straight. Hockenheim, a circuit of long straights punctuated by chicanes. The McLaren has eased away down the straight, but when we get up round this slight right-hand curve to the first of the chicanes, the Jim Clark chicane, they're at it now, and on the brakes goes Michael Bartels, flicks it through and back onto the straight once more, and here the course takes a more definite right-hand curve up to the Ostkurve. This used to be a flat-out, dauntingly quick right-hand curve, but this too has a chicane, and doing a quick lap round Hockenheim is all about braking distances. You brake as late as you dare, but if it's too late, you'll miss the chicane. If you brake too early, you lose contact with the man in front, and as the speeds climb again once more towards 200 miles an hour, if you're close enough to the car in front, you may get a slipstream tow, which will give you an extra few hundred RPM, and you can creep nearer to your quarry. On go Jeff Lee's brake lights. Now Bartels is hard on the brakes, turn it left, and then right, and then left again. And now this final piece of straight, trying to stay in touch with the McLaren as we go down towards the right-hand corner, which will take us back into the stadium section, out of the forest. It's coming up now on the brakes once more. A sharp right turn as Bartels leans the Zaxpeed Porsche across to that apex. Now over to the right-hand side of the road for the tightest corner on the circuit. The long, long second gear left-hander, which is the Saxkurve. Second apex there, now on the power once more, and across to the double right-hander, the Sudkurve, which will take us past the grandstands, clipping that final apex, twitching away at the wheel, and over the start-finish line to start another lap. Early stop for one of the GT2 911 Porsches. That's Rostan's Paul Belmondo racing car, which seems to be in some sort of early trouble. And meanwhile, look at this lead that Bernd Schneider is starting to build. His second place teammate holding the opposition back as Bernd Schneider, the reigning FIA GT champion, dances on the brakes into the chicane with that V8 lightweight CLK Mercedes, which is looking a very daunting and powerful piece of machinery indeed. He's coming out of the Ayrton Senna chicane as his teammate Ludwig comes into it. Ludwig still has the two-person Mercedes, Gunnar Mailander behind him. The Paynos, incidentally, has now yielded that fifth place to the Porsche of Jörg Müller, although he's having a little look down the inside as they come down into the stadium once more. There's Yannick Dalmas following the Paynos, and we're seeing a replay. This shows how Bernd Schneider can use the chicanes, that car bouncing over the curbs there, and you can see how little suspension movement these cars have. If you go over a bump, the wheels come up into the air. The back wheel's right off the ground there. But it's a strong car. Bernd Schneider, a hard and strong driver, and if he wants to use the curbs, he will. He obviously has faith that the car will stay together in a long race. Franz Conrad's got his little GT2 911 out of the gravel, back to the pits. They're sorting it out. Franz Conrad no doubt ruining the fact that he left his braking too late on his first flying lap for turn one. And the Paynos right on Jörg Müller's tail now. This Paynos is going gangbusters. It's very, very quick down the straight. It is more unwieldy, a big heavy car, than the Porsche when they go through the twists and the turns. But Eric Bernard and his teammate David Brabham, who'll be driving the car in the second stint, they really know how to get this car to pick up its skirts and go down the straights. Through the twists, he loses track of Müller a little bit, and in fact Müller now is starting to put the push on Mailander. Mailander in the blue Mercedes. Jörg Müller, look at him once more, close right up under braking for the Sudkurve. And it's not until they get back onto the straight that the blue Mercedes eases away from the white Porsche, and at the same time the silver Paynos starts to creep closer, with Yannick Dalmas and the other Porsche playing bridesmaid, watching the battle go on at the back of this little queue. And what you must remember is that the Paynos team is, in the context of the hugely professional FIA GT Championship, a tiny little team, a little American outfit, front-engine car designed by Adrian Reynard, who of course will be building the BAR Formula One cars next year. They're just lapping Franz Conrad's little 911 GT2 Porsche, which has come out of the pits. Oh, and a big twitch there from Mailander. Mailander starting to come under real pressure now from Jörg Müller. That little mistake that Mailander made has allowed Jörg Müller to get very, very close to him. Jörg Müller tucked up in the slipstream of the blue Mercedes. The Paynars following on too, but that little mistake from Mailander might have given Jörg Müller a chance, but it didn't, and now they're back at the chicane once more. The Paynars stuck right close. It's a great four-car battle for fourth place between the Mercedes, the Porsche, the Paynars and the other Porsche. GT racing at its absolute best. Meanwhile, the leading Mercedes are well in among the little GT2 cars, so traffic is now becoming a problem for the faster cars as they lap the slower ones. The Vipers, incidentally, running 1 and 2 in GT2. Olivier Beretta leading Carl Wendlinger. There they are, in fact. That's the pair of Chrysler Vipers, which are at the moment 1 and 2 in the equally important GT2 category. One of the Vipers in the pits. That's the Chamberlain Engineering car of Nii Amorim, and we understand it's coming to serve a 10-second penalty. We don't know quite what its transgression was, but Nii Amorim has brought the Chamberlain car in, served his 10 seconds, has come out again, as Bernd Schneider closes up on a couple more of these ubiquitous GT2 911 Porsches, and once more we see the ruthless use that Bernd Schneider puts to the curbs. Just throws that harshly sprung Mercedes over the curbs, darts between two 911s and then goes the other side of the other one, as behind, slipping ever further behind, Klaus Ludwig in the red mirrored car holds on to his second place. Little indicator going from one of the 911s to say to Jean-Marc Gounon, you can come past me on that side. A Ford Mustang there, for heaven's sake, being passed by Mailander, and still Müller and Eric Bernard in the Paynars, and there Yannick Dalmas. Oh, a moment for the Marcos. Oh, getting it completely wrong. That's what happens if you leave your braking too late for these chicanes. It's Harold Becker running third in GT2 in the multicoloured Marcos. He actually spun in front of the fourth place battle. We've got a GT1 Porsche coming in. It's Jörg Müller. Müller comes in just as Jeff Lees serves a 10-second stop-go penalty. Jörg Müller has brought in that GT1 Porsche that was battling for fifth place, and they're changing the tyres. I don't know what the problem is, perhaps a handling problem for Jörg Müller, but that's a blow for the works Porsche GT1s. The fresh tyres are going on. The Paynars, therefore, has moved back into fifth place, and the other GT1 works Porsche's off. Yannick Dalmas in the gravel. Yannick Dalmas has gone off. The car is stuck. He's spinning his wheels, trying to undig it, but it's well and truly beached, and we're seeing what happened. He was coming up to lap one of the Vipers, the GT2 Vipers, but just seemed to leave his braking too late. Now, the GT regulations allow him to have help to get himself out of the gravel if necessary. He can rejoin the race, but of course he's losing a huge amount of time. So a double blow in one lap for Porsche. There's Mark Webber, Bernd Schneider's co-driver, with Schneider getting the pit signal. And on his way now is Jörg Müller. He's got fresh tyres on that car, and he's going extremely quickly now. So whatever the problem was, the change of tyres has cured it. Back into the race goes Yannick Dalmas, and look at him scattering gravel everywhere. The under tray of that Porsche is completely full of the gravel from the gravel trap that slows the cars down so effectively when they go off the track. But there's an awful lot of that gravel now on the track, as Yannick Dalmas, headlights still on, makes his way back to what I'm sure will be a pit stop, because they'll need to clear the gravel out of the underneath of that car. Jeff Lees coming up behind him in the McLaren. Lees has to tuck in as they brake for the Ayrton Senna chicane. Gravel absolutely everywhere, and Jeff Lees has to drive through it. A barrage there. And we're seeing a replay. This is the Paynars. This is Eric Bernard getting into trouble. He'd briefly overtaken Mailander's blue Mercedes, but he left his braking too late, and the Mercedes is going the right way round the chicane, going all the way round the Paynars and getting fourth place back. We ride once more with Michael Bartels. Bartels lapping the GT2 Viper as he comes into the chicane there. Looking very smooth, but you can see the car bouncing from inside as it goes over the curbs. And Alan McNish is now inside the number 7 Porsche. They've cleared all the gravel out as we see another replay. A windscreen going on that GT2 Porsche. The windscreen coming out dramatically en masse. That may be a result of all the gravel on the circuit, but they've cleared out the number 7 Porsche. They've got most of the gravel out from underneath, I would hope. Alan McNish in the car, off the jacks, the engine cover back on, and Alan McNish back into the race, but they've lost at least 2 laps in this battle between Porsche and Mercedes. It's not going well so far for Porsche. It's certainly going well for Mercedes. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, still led by Bernd Schneider. Welcome back to Hockenheim. Bernd Schneider in the number 1 Mercedes, still leading the FIA GT Championship race here. The Porsche on his tail is the Porsche of Jörg Müller, but it's a lap down after that pit stop for fresh tyres to cure a handling problem, and it's still Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4. Fire for a Porsche. That's Sandy Grau's car on fire. Sandy Grau's Zack-Speed Porsche. He's pulling it off the track. He's got his door open, and that car is well and truly ablaze, but he's got it on the grass, and he's out of the car now. The fire marshal's on the spot. Sandy Grau out of the car, and Sandy Grau's teammates coming in. That is the Michael Bartel's car. It's got a flat front tyre. The front left-hand tyre is punctured. What a terrible race this has been for Porsche. This has been a total disaster this lap for the Zack-Speed team with the 2 green Porsches. We've also had trouble for the 2 white Porsches, and out gets Eric Bernard from the Panos. A brilliant drive by Eric Bernard. Clambering into that tiny tight cockpit goes the very talented David Brabham, with Eric Bernard helping to strap him in. The Panos going really well down these long Hockenheim straights. The fire marshals have got the fire out on that Zack-Speed Porsche of Sandy Grau. We see a replay and the car well and truly alight, and Sandy Grau calmly drives it off the circuit onto the grass. Armin Hahne now in the sister car, which is about to leave the pits. That's the GT2 Viper, the class-leading car of Olivier Beretta. Pedro Lamy aboard that car now as it gets fresh tyres. All the pit stops playing their part in this race as ever in GT racing. Ricardo Zonta taking the number 2 Mercedes back into the race, still in second place, as out goes the Viper as well. Lots of activity, but now Mark Webber, the Australian, doing the 3rd stint in the leading car. The 2 silver V8 Mercedes still first and second, but there's a battle on now for 3rd place because the Jean-Marc Gounon, Marcel Thiemann blue Mercedes, the big V12 car, the earlier specification car, has been caught by the recovering Uwe Altzen Jörg Müller Porsche. Remember, it had an early pit stop for fresh tyres to cure a handling problem, but both Jörg Müller and Uwe Altzen have kept the pressure on. This has been the most reliable of the Porsches. It's also been the quickest, and now Uwe Altzen at the wheel of that car is winding in Jean-Marc Gounon and Marcel Thiemann in the 3rd placed Mercedes, putting the pressure on. It's been a terrible day so far for Porsche, but Uwe Altzen may perhaps be able to salvage a bit of glory for the Porsche team. That's the French McLaren coming in for a routine pit stop. But meanwhile, back on the circuit, Uwe Altzen closing up a little bit under braking for the chicanes on the Mercedes. But then the V12 Mercedes seems to have the steam to be able to pull just out of reach of the Porsche. Uwe Altzen using all the road and a little bit of the grass there, and they're coming now down towards the next chicane. Look at how the Mercedes dances under braking as they come hard on the brakes now. The Mercedes nodding away as the brakes go on hard, flicking a little bit wide there for Uwe Altzen. Misses the apex going into the chicane that time, but this is a real battle on now for 3rd place between these 2. Headlights ablaze because there's a lot of traffic around. There's a slower GT2 Porsche ahead of them to lap. They're coming now down the back straight into the Ayrton Senna chicane, both leaving their braking as late as they possibly can. The big Mercedes slides, goes over the grass as they come out. The Porsche right tucked in behind it. The Porsche's gone off! Uwe Altzen's lost it. Uwe Altzen in the barriers. The car's caught fire. It's still going backwards down the verge. Now it's stopped. The door's open. Uwe Altzen is out of the car, but the car is on fire. What a terrible, terrible day for Porsche. The yellow flags wave. Uwe Altzen out of the car, walks away, looks at the rear end on fire. The disconsolate Porsche team watching it on their monitors as the fire marshals arrive now, get the fire out, and Uwe Altzen's race is totally and irrevocably run. Now, this is the other blue Mercedes coming into the pits. This is the Meylan de Bouchou car. We understand it's been black flagged, apparently got a push start after its last stop. And it looks as though they're going to wheel it back into the pits. Yes, that is the first Mercedes retirement. We're going to see Altzen's accident again, sideways across the grass, bang into the barriers, a huge impact. And on that impact, the car bursts into flames. It was actually coming out of the chicane when Altzen lost control. I wonder if it was on earth thrown up by the Mercedes that was in front of him because it had just run across the curb. Well, that Mercedes is now in the pits. The Gunon team and Mercedes having a last-minute splash and dash, and as Mark Webber takes the leading car on its way in these closing stages now, that late pit stop by the Gunon team and blue Mercedes has lost it third place. That's Bernd Schneider watching Mark Webber on his way, but here now we see the Panos, and the Panos has taken advantage of that late pit stop by the blue Mercedes to take third place. The Panos is up to third place, headlights ablaze, the Mercedes is just behind it fourth and is trying to get that third place back as they lap the Mustang coming into the Ostkurve chicane, but the Panos has got the legs of the Mercedes, and David Brabham driving with a will. Another late splash and dash. This is the McNish Dalmas Porsche, which is still going after all its earlier problems, but that will probably let Jeff Lee's McLaren pass it. So late changes all the time in this enthralling GT race here at Hockenheim. Can the Panos hang on to third place? Can the blue Mercedes make it a Mercedes 1, 2, 3? There's not very much time left. A lot of dust on the circuit. Bernd Schneider watching the pit signals through the back markers now. On his final lap comes Mark Webber in the much smaller, much more compact V8 engined lightweight Mercedes. The first time that Mercedes have run this car in the FIA GT Championship, although they did run it unsuccessfully at Le Mans. Klaus Ludwig and Bernd Schneider watching their two young co-drivers, 21-year-old Mark Webber, 22-year-old Ricardo Zonta, running first and second in the silver Mercedes, and we have got the silver Panos in third place on now this final lap, with one of the GT2 Vipers running just ahead of Mark Webber. It's the Wendlinger Donahue car, which will finish second in GT2. In front of that is the Pedro Lamy Viper, which is leading GT2. It's going to be a 1-2 for the silver Mercedes, and in GT2 it's going to be a 1-2 for the Vipers. There they are, the blue and white 8-litre V10 Vipers. Very, very powerful machines, but much more road cars than the GT1 machines, as Mark Webber goes ahead of the Wendlinger Donahue car and into the final Ayrton Senna chicane, gets the big Mercedes now onto the last dash down that final 195 mile an hour straight, perhaps nudging 200 miles an hour in the heat at the moment, but now he's been able to ease off a little as he moves across to the left of the road, takes the line for the right-hander, which brings him into the stadium. Already he's greeted by the waving Mercedes flags from the fans as he goes into the tight left-hander of the Sachs Curva, then the final double apex right-hander, the Sud Curva. The checkered flag is waiting for Mark Webber. Bernd Schneider is there in the pits to cheer him home, as home comes the number one Mercedes over the start-finish line, takes the checkered flag. It's another crushing victory for the Silver Arrows. What must the others do to beat them?
So once again, Mercedes finished first and second. The Panos boys make it onto the podium. An excellent fifth for Jeff Lees and Thomas Boucher, ahead of Alan McNish. A single point for him in the Porsche. Once again, the Chrysler Vipers cleaned up in the GT2 category. The Porsche's struggling to keep up on this quick track. Martin Stretton brought his home in 7th, just out of the points. It's all looking rather too simple for Mercedes this season. Current champion Bernd Schneider sharing the top of the podium with Mark Webber. What a first season he's having. The pair are top of the drivers' table, 18 points clear of the nearest Porsche drivers. So we're getting to the stage of a season where Porsche really must get some points on the board. These are the cars to follow this season. They do battle again at Dijon in France next time.